Provost and Chief Academic Officer. Welcome. Thank you for signing in to our first ever virtual town hall meeting from the campus of Bowling Green State University in Bowling Green, Ohio, one of our two campuses that exist at BGSU. You know, certainly the COVID-19 global pandemic has impacted all of us in a variety of ways. And at the outset, I just want to say to any of you who have perhaps personally or your family have been impacted, your health has been impacted because of this virus, we are thinking about you, and we certainly hope you are moving towards a speedy recovery. Tonight's virtual town hall is open certainly to the public, but I certainly want to specifically welcome the current students of Bowling Green State University, certainly our faculty, our staff, alumni, there may be some parents out there as well, friends of the university, and even some future BGSU Falcons that are joining us. Our goal tonight is simply to provide some updates, allow for some questions to be asked. But to be clear, there will be times where we will not be able to really give you definitive answers to your questions because we are constantly looking at the information and trying to make the very best decisions we can. So I want to start by saying there's probably some questions that we just won't be able to definitively respond to. But we will absolutely do our best in the spirit of transparency to respond to those issues. And we'll also be using this opportunity to gain knowledge about what is most pressing in your mind. And therefore, we will be able to respond perhaps in future dates as more information is gathered. Just to remind everybody, to ask a question, you can certainly share that on Facebook event feed, on the feed from Facebook. And if you're viewing on the BGSU website, simply email president@bgsu.edu. And we've got some colleagues that are monitoring those sites to feed Provost Whitehead and I those kind of questions that you might have. All right, those are the kind of the rules of the town hall meeting. So again, welcome. So you know, it's been 46 days since Ohio Governor Mike DeWine had signed a state of emergency order. And since then, Ohio has certainly been a leader in the nation in terms of flattening the curve to combat the spread of the coronavirus. And certainly we want to thank Governor DeWine as well as Dr. Amy Acton for their proactive leadership in this area. I also want to start by thanking the trustees of Bowling Green State University. There are 14 individuals, 2 student trustees and 12 individuals that serve as the trustees of our university. And these trustees provide the long-term and fiduciary responsibility of leading our university. And I want to thank each of them. They have been amazing individuals that have provided advice, counsel, and ultimately their leadership of leading our university forward. So, in the last 46 days, what's happened at Bowling Green? Well, much like campuses across the nation, we certainly have complied with all of the CDC and the Ohio Department of Health recommendations with respect to social distancing. We have increased the cleaning of our facilities and those sorts of items before we moved into a remote work. We've suspended non-essential BGSU travel both domestically as well as, of course, internationally. We're also coordinating very closely with our county officials, state and even at the nation in terms of making sure that we're following best practices. And if we can be a good partner, we are absolutely doing that. We've donated our PPE to some regional agencies here to support their efforts as one example of that. Our students out there absolutely know, and our faculty know, that on March 23rd we transitioned to an online teaching and learning model. And literally we did that in 7 days. And so I just want to so admire the flexibility and the adaptability of our faculty and staff, as well as the students of embracing a new type of learning, and we really were learning together as we're moving through this. The majority of our staff are working remotely or taking paid leave during that if they're unable to do their work remotely. And I also want to just point out that we have decided to reschedule spring commencement. We're not canceling it. We will reschedule spring commencement to some future date. That's one of those questions that we simply don't know a definitive answer on right now. We have to wait to make sure that we know when it would be safe to schedule that event, but we are committed to having a commencement in person, giving you, each of our graduating students, a chance to walk across that stage. Although tomorrow, here's a sneak preview, we will be announcing that we are going to have a virtual celebration in May, and it may be about that same time that you would have physically been here for a commencement, but it'll be a virtual celebration, but that won't replace a later scheduled in-person celebration for the class of 2020. Now, in all of this, I want to make sure that we especially thank our students for their flexibility this semester. I certainly recognize this is not what you expected the spring term to look like. None of us did. And especially our graduating students, I want you to know that we are working our way through this. We know you're disappointed, but what we want to do is make sure that when we're on the other side of this, there is an opportunity to celebrate that hard work and success. I'm also wanting to make sure that we thank our faculty and staff. They have worked in these very difficult, challenging times as well, transitioning courses, academic advising, doing virtual advising, our academic advising staff, our student affairs staff, all of the virtual programming that they have been doing, our counseling center, the telehealth of Falcon Health, kind of the list goes on, but all of that is to support our students as well as our faculty and staff. And then finally, I can't forget to thank the classified staff who are still coming to campus to maintain the operations of our campus, even though we do not have many students here, although we do have a few students who are still here on campus because they did not have a place to return during the spring. And so to each of those groups, we want to be thankful and most appreciative. You know, I also would be remiss if I didn't thank the senior leadership at Bowling Green State University. My colleague, like Joe Whitehead over here, as well as our other senior leaders of the President's Cabinet, literally, they have been working 46 straight days, focusing on trying to make the very best decisions that we can that's in the benefit and in support, I should say, of our students and faculty and staff. And we are ensuring that we are positioned to continue the success of Bowling Green State University in this post-COVID world. These are indeed difficult times, and you know, I can personally say, while I'm very appreciative that no one in my immediate family has had an impact in terms of health because of COVID-19, each of us, I know, have been impacted in different ways. And you know, my wife and I are parents of two sons that were scheduled, well, they will be completing their senior year in college, and we were certainly looking forward to their commencement in May of this year. But we understand that others are going through much more difficult sorts of issues. And so I just want to say that going forward, we will continue to make sure that we have empathy and we are thinking about others and all that they are dealing with as we work our way through this. But here's what I do know. Bowling Green State University is positioned for incredible success going forward. We have strong faculty. We have resilient staff members. And simply put, we have amazing students. I believe this is a watershed moment in higher ed. There is no doubt about that. It's a watershed moment, and Bowling Green State University will be different on the other side of the post-COVID world, just like higher ed in general will be different in a post-COVID world. But I also believe underlying that, there are certain things that don't change. As a residential campus that has been built upon a full holistic educational experience for each of our students, we've always believed that the education certainly is the foundation of that education are the classes, but it is built around an entire holistic approach to our education of our students. And for that, the underlying foundation that won't change is that we will be providing programming and supporting for students so they are empowered to live a meaningful and productive life. That the research that our faculty do inform public debate and make a difference in the world. And we will need to do that at even a greater value than we are doing today. Because that is what public universities should do. That is what 21st century public universities should do. And Bowling Green State University is absolutely in a strong position to thrive in this post-COVID world. And so before we get into some questions, I do want to turn it over to my colleague, Joe Whitehead. Dr. Whitehead is our Chief Academic Officer, Provost of the university, and would like to share a few remarks. Joe.
Thank you, President Rogers. This has been certainly a challenging time in higher education, and we've made significant adjustments as a result of COVID-19. But I want to also take a moment to echo President Rogers' statements concerning our students who've been flexible and also resilient in how they have responded to COVID-19. And I also want to, we just couldn't have imagined a few weeks ago what's happening now. And so we remain committed to moving students through the process, committed to degree completion. We also want to thank our faculty for their hard work, because without them, we could have not have made the shift from face-to-face to online delivery in 7 days, in 1 week. So we want to thank our faculty because they've transitioned to online teaching and learning. They've harnessed new technologies, they've learned new pedagogies, and worked to support our students during these unprecedented times. In addition, we've taken some actions to support our students. And one action we've taken is to modify our grading policy for the spring of 2020. It's more flexible. Students can choose if they want to have a letter grade, A, B, C, or D, or if they want to have pass or fail, or success, satisfactory or unsatisfactory. They can choose by the class. We've also extended the withdrawal deadline to May 8th, so they can choose if they want to withdraw from a course or not. In addition to that, for students who may not complete a course, they can get it incomplete, and they have until December 2020 to fulfill the requirements of the course. In addition to that, we know that many things are going on in this different environment, and we've been focused again on degree completion. And so we've had our Career Center reach out to every graduating senior to see how they're doing, to help them prepare for the difficult job market, to offer our resources to them to support them as they move forward. In addition to our graduating seniors, we've also reached out to every student at BGSU. Either our colleges have reached out, or we've reached out through centrally to just ask how you're doing, and just if you have any questions, how can we help you? Just to let you know that we care about what's going on in your lives. In addition to that, moving to online and learning, there were some students who had difficulty or didn't have the technology to participate online. We've actually identified and provided 100 laptops for students, shipped them to their homes when they needed support from a technology standpoint. In addition to that, we know that the way things are evolving, we made a decision to go online this summer. We made the decision early so that faculty would have time to prepare for online classes this summer, as well as for students to make preparation and their plans for the summer. And so again, many things have changed, but we're here to support you as we go forward, both faculty, staff, and students. So Dr. Rogers, thank you, and I'll turn it back over to you for questions.
Okay. Thank you, Provost Whitehead. So as just a reminder, we can take your questions certainly on the Facebook thread, but also at emailing president@bgsu.edu. So we'll start, and I know prior when we announced this town hall, there was quite a few questions that came in, and so we have some questions that have been generated prior to the event that started tonight, but we'll also be monitoring the questions tonight. So I've got a colleague here that's going to give us the first question.
President Rogers, we received the first question from your email account. Can you explain your current approach that you've been using for refunds and credits for students and the rationale behind that approach?
Great, thank you for that question. So a question was around the refund policy that we've had here at the university. You know, when we went into the process and we made that decision in terms of moving to an online learning environment, what we did was, if you'll remember, that was just before spring break when that decision was made. So what we felt was the fair and appropriate approach was to do a prorated on any of the housing, prorated from, was really right in the middle of spring break when we made that decision. So we looked at the number of nights remaining in the housing contract and refunded that based upon the housing contract the individual had, that the student had, you know, single occupancy, double, triple. So everybody's was a little bit different on that, but we tried to be fair and equitable in terms of that proration. On the dining side, we swipes were refunded as well. Those have all hit the student accounts. And the Falcon declining dollars, if you will, that is on your BG1 card, those will be rolled forward, although graduating seniors or others that would apply for those to be refunded, we've also done some of that refunding currently. I believe we were one of the first public universities that actually processed those refunds. We felt it was important to get those refunds out to the student. So that was our approach. I'll tell you, there's been a lot of questions about some fees, specific fees, and so we are going through case by case to begin to think about some of the very specialized fees, and maybe I'll turn that back over to Dr. Whitehead to just comment on where we are on that analysis with respect to specialized fees.
Sure, thank you. Well, we're doing an analysis of all course fees, specialized course fees, and we'll go through that analysis and see how they're used and whether or not students were able to benefit from those fees or not this spring semester. And so we will complete that analysis shortly, and then we'll be making decisions on how to address the issue in general.
Okay, great. Next question.
How is the university impacted by the CARES Act?
So the CARES Act, as you might know, had a component that supported higher education. Bowling Green State University was one of those universities, like thousands of universities across the U.S., have received a dollar amount that has been allocated to the institution. It has two components to it. One are emergency grants that need to be given to students that have been, whose education has been disrupted by the COVID-19 crisis. And another component of that is the universities are able to apply for the other component of that to reimburse and prepare for the online learning, reimburse the cost of moving to online learning, and also to support students as they're in the online learning. So the first part really are emergency grants that are available to students. The final regulations were just announced yesterday on that, and so quite honestly, I just had a meeting earlier this morning with a group as we are working to finalize the way in which we want to use those funds that are certainly in compliance with what the law says, of course, but how do we make sure that we are supporting students that have been impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. Now, there are certain kinds of limitations in terms of the students that are eligible for that, and that's some of the challenges that we're making sure we understand all those rules, because we want to make sure that we have followed the law, and that but we also want to move forward as quickly as we can to have those funds available to our students.
There are a lot of questions on email and in Facebook about the future of face-to-face classes for fall semester.
You know, so I said at the beginning, there are some questions that we simply will not be able to definitively respond to. And I think that is one of those questions. Our hope is to be face-to-face in the fall. When you think about the Bowling Green State University experience, and when people talk about why BGSU, they often talk about community, a sense of belonging, a group of people coming together, learning together, supporting each other. And it's ironic that in some ways this COVID-19 has caused us to have social distancing and to be apart from one another. So here's what I know, though, is we humans, I think, we want to learn from each other. We want to work together. And so what we are planning on the fall is to make sure that if we are face-to-face in the fall, that we are putting in all kinds of ways in which we can guarantee social distancing, and that we can reduce the risk of any kind of transmission of the coronavirus. So social distancing, we will making sure that we would have places where students can constantly be washing their hands, where we can monitor every member of our community and kinds of the health, and if appropriate, we would make sure that they are isolated if they are ill. But we will be working very hard to make sure that we are following the standards of the CDC and all of those areas. But we certainly hope to be back face to face in the fall. But it is simply too early to make that decision. I can tell you that all of the public universities in Ohio, we are constantly talking with each other, working together. Our Chancellor, Randy Gardner, certainly want to thank Chancellor Gardner and his leadership in terms of making sure that we are working together, and that in the fall we will be open to, assuming we can provide a safe campus for all of our students, our faculty, and staff. So one of those questions that we don't quite have an answer for yet.
Joe, there's a lot of questions about specialized courses, whether that's flight school, teachers, or physical science labs. Parents and students want to know how they would proceed, in the summer and the fall with those.
Sure, thank you. Those are good questions. On the flight lab, it depends again on the decisions at the state level. Again, what's top priority is the safety and well-being of the students and the faculty and staff. So when we're able to go back and for flight and ground school in a safe manner, we will do so. In terms of laboratories, I'll have to commend our faculty in the sciences and also in both the life sciences, the physical sciences, as well as the studio arts. They've been very creative in providing experiences this spring for those laboratory and studio type experiences. We will continue to look for new ways to deliver these type experiences online this summer. And then we'll hopefully be back face-to-face this fall. In terms of co-ops and internships and other experiential learning, we've got our deans working with their colleagues in the colleges to find opportunities for these students. And in some cases where a student can't complete an internship or co-op, say this summer, we're looking for alternative ways they can have an experience that they can complete. And so we're looking to our colleagues on campus, we're working collectively to find solutions so that students are not impeded from progressing in their programs.
Question came in from a parent regarding your coordination with other public universities in Ohio. Has there been any discussion about statewide coordination to make a decision together for all public universities?
So there isn't, you know, in the state of Ohio, each university is governed by their own set of board of trustees that make the strategic decisions for the university. And but our goal would be to be coordinated, and I think I just want to say to the 13 public universities in Ohio and the presidents of each of those, and I know Joe's meeting with the provost constantly of that group. We are constantly in conversation about making sure that we are coordinated and that we learn from each other. So, you know, different ideas come up about, well, we could perhaps do this or that. Sharing those ideas, it's just been a wonderful kind of learning as we have gone through together to think through the implications of certain decisions that we're making. So we will be coordinated in those efforts. That's certainly our goal, and that's the goal here at Bowling Green.
Getting a couple questions around student orientation and SOAR. Do you have a timeline on when to transition that to online, given we've announced summer classes have gone online?
Yes. So question about SOAR online. Joe, do you want to take that?
I'll take it. We have a group of people working on that, and we've made a decision to have virtual SOAR. And so the preparation, again, is in place, and we will, we think it actually will help. Instead of just a one-day experience in the summer, now this will be a summer experience. The initial engagement will be virtual, and then we'll keep communicating with students throughout the summer. And so we've made that decision, and we're excited about the ideas that have come forward from the group that's working on SOAR.
So to the students, the new students coming in, we're going to give you a little bit of a virtual learning experience all summer long as you transition to Bowling Green during this SOAR, which stands for really orientation and the registration for our newest students. So, next question.
Okay, so if the university is online or then in face-to-face in the fall, when we do transition our students back to our campuses, what are the contingencies plans around social distancing, preparing to be a COVID-resistant campus, if you will?
Yeah. So, and I'll say a few comments, and then Dr. Whitehead can add anything you'd like. We've got groups formed that are working on and looking at best practices as well. A second ago I mentioned about a statewide effort. There is a statewide committee of all the public universities that are also working on making sure that we have best practices and that we would follow those across the state universities in Ohio. You know, there's a lot of different approaches and ideas that are out there. We haven't come up with the final list, if you will, but everything from trying to think about how do we think about technology-infused courses that are perhaps a bit hybrid, where we may have larger groups of students kind of online, but then small groups of students are the ones that meet in appropriate space where they can be socially distanced, and that could be where the discussion groups occur. That would be one idea. I think when we begin to think about the student life programming and how we do dining, for example, all of those would need to be adjusted until obviously we get through this. But there's ways in which we can greatly reduce those sorts of risks.
I agree. It's interesting because I think we can learn from this online experience in the spring 2020 and summer 2020. We can take what we've learned in terms of delivering the courses online. If we can integrate that technology and those techniques back into the face-to-face situation, we can achieve the social distancing that will be required when we do return face-to-face.
Has there been a time, so looking at students who have returned to their permanent addresses and moved out of their on-campus rooms, has there been a timeline or planning around when they can retrieve their belongings from campus if they're still here?
Yeah, so as you know, we made that announcement just before spring break that we were moving into a remote learning period. Initially, we thought it would just be for a fixed amount of time, and then later we extended it. We did during spring break, there was a time where students could come back and pick up their materials, their items in their rooms, but we also said that if you cannot come back, we will keep it safe, and that's exactly what we've done. So there's a fair number of students who still have their items in their room in Kreischer or Founders Hall at the various residence halls across our campus. We have kept those safe, of course. Once the governor would lift the stay-at-home order, which we don't have an exact date of that yet, although he's discussed May 1 as being a partial or a goal to move towards. But once that occurs, Residence Life will be reaching out to students and making sure that they're aware of some times where they can return to campus and retrieve their belongings. And we'll do that in a social distancing way. We'll make sure that we schedule groups of students to minimize the number of individuals that would be in any individual residence hall. So more information on that as soon as we get a lift order, if you will, from the governor.
We have a question emailed from a parent who wants to know if there's going to be any specific support mechanisms for graduating students who are entering the tough job market.
And I'll turn that over to Provost Whitehead a little bit on what the Career Center is currently doing, and I'll have a few other comments.
Okay,
perhaps.
yes.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that the Career Center had reached out to over, I think, 3,000 students who were graduating seniors to engage them in communication to see where they were, what their plans were, have their plans changed. We also did a survey of employers and got feedback from employers as what their plans are. Have they delayed internships? Have they delayed starting job dates, et cetera? And so we'll be working with those students to find ways to identify opportunities for them as the job market continues to evolve. And so we reached out to help students understand the resources that we have at the Career Center. And we'll be more proactive as we go forward.
I might add, I think there's also opportunities as we work with the alumni of Bowling Green State University, 187,000 alums spread throughout the world, in terms of how do we leverage that network where their opportunities are. BGSU, we're a member of the Ohio Business Roundtable, for example, and they've been very involved in trying to find ways to make sure we match talent with where there are opportunities, because there are companies that are hiring right now. There's organizations that are hiring. Certainly the school systems, we have a lot of graduates going out and they'll be teaching, they'll be starting their teaching opportunity. There's certainly opportunities there. But I know in terms of the impact of the COVID that it's had on our economy, in the for-profit sector, there may not be as many opportunities. So what we want to do is make sure that we've identified those organizations that are doing hiring and making sure that we've got those linked to our current students. So here's what I want to say to any of the graduating students out there who are looking for opportunities. Make sure they get in contact with our Career Center ASAP. Make sure that we've got you've linked. And so as we work on finding these other opportunities, we just want to make sure you get connected. So I urge you to do that right away.
You mentioned about staff working remotely and the governor's May 1 decision on solely reopening businesses. Does that include Bowling Green State University for faculty and staff to start returning physically to campus to resume their work?
Yeah, so right now we're working remotely. We have a model where it's now been designed where students aren't here on campus and they're learning remotely. And so we have minimal physical staffing here on our campus, and then we have the remote work of our staff that are doing everything from academic advising to other activities to support our students. We intend to continue that model at this point in time. So the governor talked about a May 1 is for some businesses to potentially come back online. At this point at Bowling Green, we will maintain where we are as we begin to think about the reopening that will occur a little bit later.
Commented about social distancing if students were to return face-to-face and what that would look like for academic and co-curricular experiences. We have a couple parents asking about residence life and would that impact their students' room, or if they have a roommate specifically.
Yeah, those are, it's a great question, and it's some of the things that we've got a planning group looking at right now. So what does residence life look like in a way that we would reduce the risk of the COVID-19, the coronavirus? And so there's a variety of options, everything from having not as many choices, quite honestly, in terms of the number of individuals in a room and those sorts of things. And then also, looking at shared bathroom and restroom facilities and how that might all work. So we are looking at those sorts of issues, and what we want to do is make sure that we are following standards that are considering the health and safety of everyone, certainly our students living on campus.
A couple more questions relating to fees. Can the university provide any relief for out-of-state fees? And what's the rationale behind that? And also, are you looking at summer fees and possible reduction?
Okay. So out-of-state fees, part of the reason we charge out-of-state fees, and most states are, in fact, I won't say all states, I don't know, but most states, many states are like that. And here in Ohio, they certainly are like that. We have out-of-state fees, and part of the reason is because the in-state residents, the state is providing partial support, what we call the state share of instruction, which is additional support for in-state students taking courses at Bowling Green. And therefore, out-of-state students, we do not receive that support from the state for out-of-state students. And therefore, the out-of-state rate tends to be a little bit higher to make up for the amount that's coming in for the in-state student. So that's the reason there is a distinction between out-of-state and in-state. Now, we do have reciprocity with some counties in the state of Indiana, and so any of our out-of-state students that perhaps are in some of those counties along the border of the state of Indiana, they are receiving in-state tuition because there's an agreement between the two states of Indiana and Ohio with respect to that issue. So at this point, we don't see a change. Now, we are looking at a variety of different models, in terms of the summer. I'll say this, that we're working on modeling out how we may make an adjustment in the general fee for this summer for the students that are taking online courses in the summer. We hope to have that decision made here in the next week.
Provost Whitehead, we have a couple of questions regarding our research agenda. How does COVID-19 impact spring research activities, summer, and also planning for the fall?
Sure. Thank you for the question. In terms of the spring, we had to ramp down our research activities in order to observe social distancing. And so many of our students and faculty are working remotely where possible. And then going through the summer, again, it depends on the governor's orders and when we can come back and observe social distancing consistent with the orders that are put forward. And then going to the summer, to the fall, again, we have to consider the social distancing. So it's a question I can't give a definite answer to. I can just say that we'll observe safety and we'll observe the orders of the governor, and we'll ramp back up as quickly as we can based on those decisions that going forward. There is some research that is ongoing that is critical, and there are some special approvals given for that type of research.
President Rogers, if we return to face-to-face teaching and learning in the fall, what's the impact on intercollegiate athletics, especially relating to competition, NCAA and MAC relation?
So, you know, and I'm sure you've read a lot in the news on athletics and, you know, the future of collegiate athletics. Certainly the fall across the nation, but right here in the Midwest especially. Football is a very popular sport and one that is alive across college campuses, but a variety of other sports. Obviously, men and women's soccer is a fall sport as well, and you know, Bowling Green in soccer, we've you know, two-time defending MAC champions on the women's side, in the championship of the MAC on the basketball or on soccer in the fall for the men's side. Obviously basketball, you know, we've had some great success. At this point, you know, if we are open face-to-face in the fall, as we are planning to be, we will have athletics at Bowling Green State University. Although we will be, as a member and as a Division I NCAA member, will obviously follow the standards that are instituted by the NCAA and the Mid-American Conference, of which we are a member. But I'll also say that I think this coronavirus has caused all kinds of not really an opportunity, but it's causing us to reflect on a lot of things in which we participate in. And so we are looking closely at making sure that we're achieving all of our goals as a university, certainly as it relates to athletics. But I can simply say that at this point, you know, we are planning to be open in the fall, and we are planning to have a robust athletic season in the fall.
A lot of comments and questions regarding positive cases for our region for COVID-19. Is there any coordination with local health agencies and organizations? And also, what is the role of Falcon Health playing in that?
Okay. So we have had some certainly cases here in Wood County. So as you probably know, we're a real college town here. The city of Bowling Green is, we're not a large city. The university certainly makes up, when all our students are here, makes up a fair amount of the population of the city of Bowling Green. And so we're naturally a less populated density in Wood County. That said, we have had some cases and some deaths here in Wood County as well, and we certainly are thinking about those families. We are coordinated with Wood County Public Health, the health department. Ben Beatty every day, my colleague and Ben Talk, we're coordinated with the emergency management, EMS, for our region. We are working closely with Wood County Hospital and then also the Northwest Ohio Hospital Association. So we've had a lot of work coordinating regionally. We've been fortunate that we've not seen many or as many cases as perhaps some other areas of Ohio have had. But we are monitoring that very closely and are certainly hopeful that we don't see a significant increase at this point. Although in the last few days there have been some increases, but there again we are in a relatively or a less dense populated county than many of the other counties of Ohio.
Provost Whitehead, we're receiving a couple of questions regarding academic programs at Bowling Green. The first one is, given COVID-19 and the impact of the global pandemic, do you anticipate growing public health and pandemic planning programs for the College of Public and Human Services? And given that we're doing the majority of our learning online and teaching online, are we going to grow online academic degrees?
Yes. To the first question, we had a conversation today with the Dean of the College of Health and Human Services about courses, programs that will be supportive of the need of the new wave of doing things in supporting research, supporting the need for professionals to understand epidemiology, et cetera. And so, yes, we're looking at those things now because there's a great need. And what better place to have these things occur than Bowling Green State University. And again, we're looking at more than just degree programs because we're looking at bundling courses together so a person can get the expertise and knowledge needed in a short period of time. And we have flexibility to change those courses as the need changes. And give me the second part of the question again.
Growing online programs.
Growing online programs, yes. In a targeted way. Again, we want to grow online programs where there's need, where it's beneficial to students and beneficial, again, to the society as a whole. We can't do everything, but we want to do the strategic things to move forward, and online programming is essential to that.
And I'll add, Provost Whitehead, we graduated a group of BGSU nursing students early, just last week, so they can be out in assisting the healthcare system. Nursing is actually one of our fastest growing majors, even before the COVID-19. We saw great growth in that program, as well as a variety of other health-related programs. And certainly we have a long tradition in public health in terms of the master's program as well. So those programs have been growing rapidly. We've had a nice relationship with Bon Secours Mercy Health and Mercy College, and as well as with the various other institutions that we just most appreciative of. And I think more than ever, I think we're going to see more interest in a post-COVID world. I think we've begun to see how everything is so linked and intertwined, and the importance of thinking about public health, the importance of thinking about how we can serve and help each other. And so I just want to appreciate all those BGSU alums that are out there serving on the front lines right now throughout the nation. A few weeks ago, I guess it was, we had an opportunity to celebrate a lot of those individuals, and they sent us quick pictures of them working on the front lines, and certainly inspired to see the impact that alums of Bowling Green State University are having, and just to all healthcare workers, and whether they be medical lab scientists that are doing the testing, to the nurses, to the doctors, to anyone working in that space. We are very appreciative of their work.
Provost, we have got a lot of questions around study abroad and study abroad planning for the fall, especially around regardless if we go face-to-face or online learning. If students want to study abroad in countries who are opening up, what does that look like for kind of implementing that?
Yes, we have a group looking at that also. I think, again, the key part of this is the safety of the students. And so we'll look carefully what the opportunities are, if it's safe for the students to go abroad, and we will support that. But again, we have to be very careful and make sure that the health and safety of the students is paramount.
You know, and I think the study abroad, so, to the Provost's point, the importance of those sorts of experiences so that we really have an appreciation and an understanding of the world in which our students will go out and work and lead is so important. And I'm reminded Quinn Eberhard. Quinn is a young lady who's graduating this spring. She won a very prestigious award, the Goldwater Scholarship Fellowship, and winning a Goldwater is almost, not quite, but almost like a Nobel Prize, certainly at the undergrad level. Maybe not quite to that level, but certainly the Goldwater is a very prestigious award, and we're just so proud of Quinn and her winning it. She's in the sciences area, and a big part of Quinn and this national competition that she won to be awarded this, a lot of that had to do with her study abroad experiences here at Bowling Green. And so that's why we've got to make sure that we find, when it's safe, we have opportunities for our students to have those experiences. And in the short term, we may have to do some of that virtually. So we can still understand, and our students have an appreciation for cultures throughout the world.
I agree,
Yep.
I agree.
Give me a couple questions about our large signature events on campus, specifically homecoming. I know there's some implications around face-to-face and online, but do you have a timeline on when you can let our alumni know, or how we'll let our alumni know?
So at this point, homecoming had been announced to occur in early October, and that is currently our plan. Our alums would also know we're in the middle of a comprehensive campaign to raise funds for the future of Bowling Green, and making great success there, and that is when we were also going to celebrate the conclusion of the campaign. So it was, our planning is that would have been, will be an amazing weekend, assuming we go forward. At this point, our assumption is yes, absolutely. But as we get into where we are in the fall, we may need to make some adjustments, of course. We should probably have those decisions made certainly by mid-June, is certainly our hope to have certain decisions made about the fall.
Getting a couple questions regarding enrollment and what enrollment planning looks like for the fall, how that's impacting the student experience. Do we have preliminary numbers?
Yeah, our enrollment projections for the fall are very solid indeed right now. We know that a little bit of what we don't know is some of our current students, and because of the economic issues that are going on today, what we don't quite know is what the financial needs may be for some of the students who are here that are thinking about returning, but it may be a real challenge because of the economic challenges that we know going on across the country. And so while right now, from an enrollment standpoint, everything looks solid, what we don't know is the impact that this economic issue may have on enrollments. Often in economic downturns, there is impacts on enrollment. We do know that the state of Ohio, the governor has asked us to do some planning on terms of a reduced amount of state share of instruction. That's the support that the state provides the public universities. So all the public universities are going through that planning of a reduction in that amount for this next year because of, quite honestly, the state tax revenues are down. And they're down because of how the economy was negatively impacted by the coronavirus.
Kind of on the budget status for the universities, some questions regarding the email communication that you sent last week regarding the $27 million gap for the universities. Two questions: does that have an impact on employees, faculty, and staff? And the second question: what does that mean for student tuition?
Right. So we're I'll start with the tuition, student tuition. At Bowling Green State University, we have a guaranteed tuition. That means the student that comes in during the fall term, that fall term we guarantee the tuition for the next 4 years. So there will be no changes in the tuition guarantee that we have provided our students. So the tuition will not change. We made that promise, and we're committed to that promise that that would not be increased. Now, in an online world, in terms of the general fee and such, we're contemplating, what would that look like if we weren't face-to-face in the fall. So we're doing some looking to see what we could do in that case. But with respect to increasing the tuition, there would be nothing like that. In terms of the impact on the university, we are modeling, just like I think every university across the nation right now is modeling a reduction in our overall budget, which does have impact. But what we are trying to do, and I want to really call out Provost Whitehead and our CFO Sherry Stoll and Sue Houston, but each of our deans and our vice presidents have been working very, very, very diligently to say, well, how do we do certainly the same, if not more, for a little bit less? How do we address a challenge as it relates to the budget, but that we do not impact our opportunities that we're providing our students to ensure that our students will still be successful? That said, the budget reduction is not insignificant, and as such, we are trying to be very strategic in thinking about certain areas that we will need to back off from. We will need to eliminate some duplicate initiatives, perhaps. We are evaluating some initiatives that perhaps are not as effective as they could have been or should have been. We're walking away from those. So there will be, I want to say that there will be impact on some of the current employees of Bowling Green State University. And but we and I certainly regret these sorts of decisions, but we want to make sure that we're being very careful and thoughtful in that analysis. But our goal is to make sure that the institution is positioned for continued success. And how do we do that? We do that by making sure that we have academic programs that support each and every student so they can accomplish and meet their goals, that they can be prepared to live a meaningful and productive life. They're prepared to embrace the world and make a difference. Anything you want to add to that, Provost Whitehead?
Really tough times. We spend a lot of time talking about the human element as we look at these budgetary issues. And again, unexpected. This coronavirus is impacting the entire world in general and BGSU in particular. And again, we are looking very carefully at things. We're getting input from across the campus at how we can achieve the goals that we need to achieve in the best way possible.
A lot of questions regarding the $27 million figure. For those of you who didn't receive the email or read it in the press, kind of how we got to 27 for the main campus and the $2 million for Ireland.
So, question around the budget deficit. As you know, the Bowling Green campus is much larger than the Firelands campus, and but we both receive support from the state of Ohio, and a component of both of our budgets is state share of instruction. So we've modeled a 20% reduction in the state share of instruction. That's what the governor and the chancellors ask us to consider. Some of this is still early. We don't know everything, but we believe that is a very appropriate and a solid number to use in terms of what we see to be the decrease in the state share of instruction. And I believe it's pretty consistent across the state. We also imagine that we'll see so while enrollment looks very stable right now, What we don't know is the impact that the coronavirus may have on families of Bowling Green State University students. And there again, in challenging times, the resources may not be there for some students to return to Bowling Green State University, perhaps. We're working hard to find ways to raise funds, to identify other ways to provide some additional scholarship opportunities for those students, without a doubt. But we're afraid it could impact some of our overall enrollment. You know, going into this, we were one of the fastest growing public universities in Ohio over the last 5 years. But we believe this may see a decline in our enrollment. So when you look at the decline in enrollment and you look at the dramatic reduction in the state funding, those estimates turn out to be about 26, 27 million here on this campus and about 2 million on our Firelands campus.
A lot of ideas and questions that help give input for the university leadership regarding budget situation. Is there an opportunity for students, faculty, staff, alumni, friends to share their feedback on two pieces, cost savings, but also generating resources?
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks for the question, because on off the homepage of the university, there's actually, a few weeks ago, we started this where individuals can give us opinions, give us their ideas in terms of reducing costs or some synergies that could be gained or increasing some resources. I think we've had a couple hundred suggestions so far. We've put those ideas together. There's some themes that are coming out of that. There's a group that is evaluating some of that information. I can tell you that the senior leadership team are constantly looking at that data as well and those ideas. There's a lot of great ideas out there. I hope those continue to come in. You know, and some of this is sharing some of the burden, if you will, across the entire campus. Some of it needs to be a bit more strategic. There's some other ideas that are out there about ways in which perhaps we could have a little flatter organization and as such save some additional resources in terms of administrative structure. And on anything like that, if we can make savings and get efficiencies there, it is absolutely the right thing to do, because we're not taking away from the student experience and the support of those students, or not taking away from the support of the research efforts of our university, and that we remain a great value, and that perhaps we can even increase the value that we're providing our students.
Along those same lines, there's a couple of questions regarding the status and the future of the strategic plan of the university. An additional similar question is, how might BGSU reinvent the future for higher ed?
Why don't I'll start that, but then I want to make sure Joe weighs in on this. A few years ago, we started a strategic planning process called Focus on the Future. And out of that came ideas that we knew higher ed was shifting. We knew that there were questions about the value of a college degree. There were questions about what's the real purpose of higher ed in the 21st century. And we knew there was a demographic shift coming to the Midwest. There will be fewer 18-year-olds graduating from high school in 2024, 25, 26. We knew all of that was going on, and we knew we needed to shift. And when you look at the strategic plan of Bowling Green, what you see is a refocusing effort in making sure that at the core, we are providing the students a holistic approach, empowering them to be ready to take on life. And that we recommitted ourselves to making sure that we were more intentional and integrated in terms of that approach. And at the same time, we also talked about the importance of a research agenda that is very focused on items of importance to the public. Before we got into this, you might remember the water quality, which is a public health issue as well, but the water quality in Lake Erie and across the fresh water in the United States, well, we're paying a lot of attention, appropriately so, to the coronavirus, but the water quality is also an issue that we can't forget, because that is also a public health issue. And so the work that we are doing in public health in a variety of departments across campus, we were working hard to connect that to the public good. And that was a part of our strategic plan. The whole idea of the concept of making sure we remain a great value. An important imperative of the strategic plan was that we are thinking about how we're organized. How can we change some of the things we're doing to become more efficient? Because we want to remain and even become a greater value. It seems to me the coronavirus speeds all that up. We have to achieve all those goals more quickly than we ever thought we needed to. And that's why, in many ways, I'm so appreciative of the staff, the faculty, and the leadership of the institution, because we are working on those issues, but now we are focused more than ever to achieve those much quicker. Provost Whitehead?
Sure. We have to accelerate everything we're doing. I just wrote a few notes here. One is that one of the priority initiatives is to add programs in high demand. We mentioned healthcare earlier, nursing. We're looking at other initiatives in healthcare also, because that's a growing need, a pressing need. And in addition to that, applied engineering and advanced manufacturing. As we look at what's happened here with COVID-19, we found that we don't have the supply chain and manufacturing we need here in the US. So as we look at these strategic type programs that we can add at BGSU, it supports the public good and supports individuals and families in their lives in finding meaningful employment and steady employment. And so focus on the future, again, lines up very well with the changing of higher education and what we need to do to address those challenges. And in doing so, we were focused on the year 2025, year 2026. And as President Rogers said, we have to now focus on the demographic shift and the challenges in the year 2021, year 2020 and the year 2021. So we have to be more urgent about what we're doing. But focus on the future is still the guide post, if I can say it that way, as we move forward.
You know, and I'll just add one final comment. When you look at the strategic plan, it also talks about the importance of diversity and belonging. And so more than ever, I think this pandemic has demonstrated how connected the world is, how interconnected the world is, and the importance of making sure that each member of our community is supported, and that they can achieve all that they can achieve, that they are challenged. We push each member of our community to achieve a high level of excellence, but that we support each and every member of our community, and that we have an appreciation for others from different backgrounds and from different parts of the world, different parts of our country, different parts of our communities. How do we make sure that we are the kind of university that is learning from each other, supporting each other, understanding each other? Because the world, our community, the world is so interconnected. And this virus has, I think, shown that more than perhaps ever before, the connection that exists among the humans on planet Earth.
There are a couple questions about what are we doing to support our students, especially those who are struggling financially, and there are opportunities to access not only the CARES money, but student emergency money. What services are we providing?
Yeah. So the Student Emergency Fund, we have a Student Emergency Fund. They've distributed a little over $190,000 to about 541 students so far. I want to thank, we had a very generous group of alums that donated considerable dollars towards that $190,000. We had over, I think, about 600 individuals, alumni and friends of Bowling Green. Faculty and staff were also donors, I know, to that fund. And that goes to students who are having issues with rent, with food, with those sorts of issues. Those applications, we would encourage students to continue to apply. We're working to replenish some of those funds, and certainly we're working to use some CARES dollars, the CARES Act, and the funding there that we can use to support directly to the student.
We're in our final 15 minutes, so I just want to ask a couple other questions that are coming in, especially regarding our relationship off campus with the city of Bowling Green. Are we partnering with them related to off-campus housing, or especially the experience for students who live in town?
Right. So we are, we have a very, very strong relationship with the city of Bowling Green. The mayor and I are in constant contact back and forth, certainly, and as I previously mentioned, Wood County Health Department and certainly the city of Bowling Green and Wood County Hospital, we're constantly interacting with the community, making sure that we're aligned. The other piece is we have students that have rental lease arrangements off campus. Some of our off campus students, we understand that they are constantly, or they're trying to make certain decisions about next year as well. We want to help when we can. But keeping in mind that those are private individuals or companies that may be managing or owning those properties, and a lot of that is up to them. But we want to be a kind of a part of that solution if we can find a way that provides our students with some flexibility on those issues. But that's kind of where we are right now.
For students who are learning online this spring semester and summer, how can they stay involved and stay engaged at the university?
Yes, we launched a virtual engagement through Student Affairs as a way to help students stay connected, exercising virtually in the morning together, other activities like that. We also have services to virtual engagement with the counseling center if students need help that way. Also virtual telehealth, I can put it that way. So we're looking at all these types of support services to help keep students engaged with each other and also with the campus community.
Just before before spring break and before the coronavirus was impacting us, so the students will remember that we introduced the robots to campus. And the robots were a automated delivery approach to serve the students on campus. Those robots, while they're not as busy as they were when we had all our students here, they're still moving, and I'm pleased to announce that in partnership with the city of Bowling Green, they'll also now be delivering off campus. And so when you all return, you're going to see robots delivering food and services across different parts of the city of Bowling Green, both certainly on campus but also off campus. So we're excited about that as a partnership, and quite honestly, part of that partnership is being able to then do delivery of food and those sorts of things to individuals that perhaps don't want to go out in the stay-at-home order. So part of that is also partnering with the city of Bowling Green on a public health issue.
Final question before some closing comments. How can our students, outside of our students, faculty, and staff, how can our parents and alumni stay up to date with our plans and actions regarding COVID response?
So we are working very hard to be as transparent and communicative as possible in terms of how we engage. We will continue to be sending emails. I would ask that you check our website. We try to keep that website open and up to date constantly. We also, and I'd encourage you to certainly send me an email, send Provost Whitehead an email, either of us or any of our colleagues. We are working to be as transparent and open during these challenging times. We want to make sure that we know when there are issues. So for example, we'll be sending out a survey to all of our current students. I think it's tomorrow it's going out. And we ask you to complete the survey. And in that survey, it's 5 questions. It's really quick. But at the end, it also says, is there a specific thing that you want, that you're having an issue with, or that you want to know more about? Give us your name, your email. We'll follow up with that question. So students that are currently registered at Bowling Green, you're going to get a survey tomorrow. I hope you'll answer that and give us your feedback as well. Anything else you want to add on that?
Yeah.
Nope.
I think
Okay.
you covered everything.
Okay.
Closing
And
comments,
clo-
we're up to time.
Okay. Closing comments. So do you want to start with closing comments? I feel like this is a debate right now, isn't it? But it's not. We're working together. So
Yes, we
Provost Whitehead, what would you like to say here?
I said early on, probably in day 10 or so, I compared the coronavirus episode to a hurricane. About day 44, I know it's much different because with hurricanes and tornadoes, everything is located locally in space and also in time. And so you get through it, it's over, you recover, and you move forward. The issue with coronavirus here is that we don't know where it is, we don't know when this will end, and so it's very difficult now to plan and to move forward. But I do know that it will subside. If we keep planning, we keep working together, then we can actually overcome and come out the backside stronger than we are, than we went in the front end. As Dr. Rogers mentioned, that we are now I think we appreciate connectivity more so than we did before Corona-19. We took it for granted. And now that we are separated, we realize that the human interaction is really key, and it's great for all of us. And so I want to encourage everyone to hang in there, be resilient, keep pushing forward, and if we work together, then we can overcome and come out stronger on the backside.
Yeah, that's great. And I think those are great pieces of advice. Provost Whitehead grew up in a part of the country that had some hurricanes and had served at some universities that went through some very tragic hurricanes. So we're fortunate to have him at Bowling Green because he's led institutions through various challenges. And so I'm just very pleased he's my colleague here at Bowling Green State University and that he's here. So in closing, I just want to thank you for tuning in to this town hall meeting on Facebook and on our website. I know we didn't answer all your questions, and I know in some cases perhaps we didn't answer your questions in a definitive nature. We will constantly be updating information and sharing more definitive information as we get it. As Provost Whitehead said, these are, without a doubt, these are challenging, difficult times. Each of us are challenged in different ways. In my office, on my whiteboard, I've got day 46 marked up there. I've got little etchings there, and I think about each day that we're going through, and there's different challenges, and then I think about the individuals that are going through some even bigger challenges. And so we've got to make sure that we continue to work together, that we learn from each other, we have empathy for others, that we are thinking about what we're going to be on the other side of this coronavirus, and how it will make us stronger. It will make us more adaptable. It will make us more resilient. Because when we learn about these sorts of challenges and we work our way through these, and that we continue to have hope on what it's going to look like on the other side, because there will be another side, and Bowling Green State University will come out stronger on that other side as we work together, as we support our students, as we learn from our students, as we hear from our alums, as we hear from our friends and the supporters of Bowling Green State University. There's going to be some difficult decisions to be made as we go through and make certain decisions, but we are committed to making sure that each and every one of our students have a world-class experience. Our faculty and staff are aligned to be able to deliver that. We are in this together. We are going to find our way through this, and we will be a stronger university for it, and we will continue to be that model of being a public university driving the public good. So to each of you, thank you for joining us. Very happy that you're here. I wish you a wonderful evening, and Ai Ziggy Zumba.